Welcome to Don't Take This Personally.
A podcast about the business of creativity.
We are your hosts,
Cami Oliveria.
and Gabe Conover.
Welcome back.
Yes, once again. We have a fun topic today.
We really do. A quick little reminder before we get started. Every Tuesday, we are hopping in a clubhouse room to talk about the previous week's episode. So join us so we can talk about it.
Join the lot of us.
Join the lot of us. We'll answer your questions about the topic from the previous week or anything you want to talk to us about.
Yes.
So that's
anything's on the table.
Anything's on the table, and things get a little spicy in there.
Always.
All right, you tell me, what are we talking about today?
Today we are talking about creating a business approach, which is a new term for Cami.
I was just gonna say, this episode is Gabe's baby. So much so when he, we text about like what we want to talk about in our next recording day. And when he listed this, I was like, I don't know what that is, or I don't know what there is to talk about, but I'm going to trust he has something to say if he brought it up. So, you need to just take it away.
Okay, sounds good. So yeah, business approach. This is actually a term that I kind of stole from Starbucks. I tried Googling this exact term and it's not really a thing. So yeah, if you don't know, I used to be a store manager at Starbucks. I worked there for 5 years. And as much as I did not learn from that place, I also learned a lot.
Based on everything you just explained to me, I think you learned a lot. So
yes, and this is something that I actually really appreciated about the way, I guess like a standard that they tried to uphold and they tried to get us to uphold. Anyway, so yeah, a business approach. What is that? To me, a business approach is pretty much just the way that I go about handling my business. It's like a business plan, but I don't know why the word approach just kind of, I like it a little bit better because
I think it allows for more flexibility than a plan.
Yes, flexibility, because the reality is that you can organize yourself and your business to perfection, and no matter what, things are still not going to go the way that you want them to.
Yeah, sometimes plan can be a dangerous word for me, because if
I
things
agree.
don't go according to plan, I don't do well.
Yes.
So I like the word approach more.
Oh,
yeah.
You're helping me figure it out
yes.
too. Yeah, so pretty much I break this down. I break my business approach, not plan, down into 4 different categories. And the first one is organization, then there's delegation, budget, and then work-life balance. And we've already talked a little bit about work-life balance. So if you haven't listened to that episode,
it's episode 4.
Episode 4, we talk about whether we think it's possible or not. So really, I'm not going to touch too much on that, but I will at the very end. But yeah, so I'm just going to kind of dive head first into the way that I do this.
Take it away.
So I'm going to give you literally my actual business approach. This is how I do things. So,
after he explained this to me when we were doing our little meeting before we started recording, I was literally like, so how much do I owe you for that mentor session? Because this is so valuable. And so listeners, this is for you and for me.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, I'm an extremely organized person, but I also, it's, as much as I want to be extremely organized, it's just not a reality, especially for someone like me who owns small businesses. I have kids, I have a wife, I have a personal life. Like it's all stuff that is not, you cannot be perfectly organized with. You have to be adaptable. So this helps me a lot. A lot of people, what they do is they create to-do lists for themselves. And I do this. I still do this, but to-do lists can be very overwhelming. So I organize my schedule based off of daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, and yearly tasks. And then I have a side little to-do list for things that don't really fit into those categories.
Like ongoing projects.
Correct. Yeah. So ongoing projects or like new ideas, new things that just aren't normal day-to-day things that I would do. So I'm just going to tell you, this is literally what my daily schedule looks like. And the way that I handle it is every single day, I go down this daily list of things to do, and I don't carry on with anything else on my to-do list until all of these things are done. So I'll just list a few things. Most of them are very simple. So like check my daily schedule, answer all my emails, texts, and DMs, I go over my HoneyBook account, which if you don't know what that is, it's just where I keep all my contracts and handle all of my payments.
They're called client management systems.
Client management system. I prep gear for if I have a shoot today. I post on Instagram if I have something to post. I'll write a little blog post. I will little other things that have been on this before were like make TikToks or make reels, something like that. Things that I was trying to challenge myself to do every single day. And then I also have on here to do one thing on my to-do list, because the reality is sometimes it takes me 8 hours to do all of the things on my daily list, and sometimes it takes me 1 hour. So if I finish everything in 1 hour, then that means I have, a full day of getting to tackle everything that's on this external to-do list of mine. But sometimes when it takes me the full 8 hours, maybe I won't be able to get to anything on my to-do list. So that's why I have on my daily schedule to do one thing on my to-do list, because then I'm at least keeping up with it a little bit. And then I can go down to my weekly list, which I tackle all of the things on my weekly list on Monday and Tuesday, depending on how much time it takes me, like sending out my weekly newsletter, writing my assistant's schedule, or creating a to-do list for her. I edit all of the sneak peeks from the galleries or the things that I shot last week. I organize my hard drives, yada, 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 different things. Obviously, there's going to be different things on different people's schedules. And then when it comes to my monthly list, I literally just have one thing, which is QuickBooks. And that's just, I go through all of the things, the expenses that I had, and I organize them. Quarterly tasks look like following up with my taxes, following up with my accountant every quarter. I update my website and my contracts every quarter. And again, that sounds like a really daunting task, but when you're doing it 4 times a year, it takes me like 5 minutes every single time, because I'm actually keeping up with it pretty routinely. And then yearly, I have things like clean my cameras and then update photos that are on different photo platforms like The Knot, stuff like that. Now, all of these, the monthly, the quarterly, and the yearly things, I actually have them written to my schedule. So on the first of the month, it says do monthly tasks. And then on the quarter, when the quarter hits, which I don't know what date that is, when that hits, it says do quarterly tasks. So it's my cue that I have to do those things on those specific days. Are you keeping up?
Yeah, so I just want to pause and paint a picture for the other side of the spectrum, because I don't do any of this. Mm-hmm. I always have the best intentions of doing this, but I want to paint a little picture of what my life looks like until today. Editing really stresses me out, because in previous years, it consumed my life to the point where I did nothing but edit. And I go back to a fear-based place when I have a lot of editing in my queue. So I will put that above everything, which is why I delegate some things, which we're going to get to in a second. So put a pin in that. But when I'm not delegating and I'm handling all my own editing, I will ignore everything else to take care of editing, because I am so fucking scared of getting behind on editing, because I know what my life looked like when I was behind on editing. So it looks like this. I wake up in the morning. I'm like, I don't want to address emails yet because I have to get editing done to start the day off on that note. I'll just put 1 hour into editing and then get into my emails. 8 hours later, it's the end of my workday. I haven't touched my texts or my DMs. I haven't posted on Instagram. I haven't done anything. I haven't touched my emails. All I've gotten done is a full day of editing. This cycle will repeat itself day after day. Oh, tomorrow I'll get to my emails. Tomorrow I'll get to that stuff I have to do for my accountants. Tomorrow I'll do this. And then I push it all week or 2 weeks or whatever it is, and then all of a sudden I'm having a panic attack at the end of the week because I have 100 emails that haven't been responded to. I have a to-do list a mile long of a bunch of bullshit I have to do. I have not been posting on Instagram. I have like 200 DMs that have never been responded to because I let this happen every day. This exact thing we're describing is why I'm a bad texter, because I get overwhelmed by text, so I let them build up day after day, and then I'm like, too overwhelming, I'll do it tomorrow. Well, okay, now I just added 10 to the list, and so tomorrow it's 50, and then the next day it's 60, and on and around and around it goes. This, what we just described, probably contributes to 80% of my anxiety problems.
Wow.
I don't have systems in place like Gabe just described. I just promise I'll get better and promise I'll totally take care of the other things before editing tomorrow, and I never do.
Yeah, that's the reality.
So that's what my life looks like.
No, totally. It's understandable, because honestly, if I didn't have something like this, mine would look exactly the same. And what this does, what creating this type of, it's not, I don't even want to say to-do list. It's more of just like an organized way of doing things. We're changing words again because to-do lists are daunting.
Yeah.
If I were not separating like my actual business approach list to from my to-do list would be like pages long all the time.
Yes.
Because what would be on my to-do list? It would be edit sneaks from blank and blank shoot. Do this blog from blank and blank shoot. Answer all your emails. Answer inquiries. Yada yada yada. That's what my to-do list would look like, and it would overwhelm me like crazy.
I should open my planner and show you that is what my to-do list looks like.
And it's super intimidating. So now the only
cry
things
a lot about it.
the only things on my to-do list are things that don't fit into a specific category. So like an example would be at my new studio, I need to replace the handle on my bathroom door. Like that doesn't fit into a category. So that's something that is on my to-do list. And then I tackle those things once I'm done with the actual daily and weekly things that I have to do, set aside to do. And so Cami, unfortunately, if she is going to want to implement this, it's going to take a minute for her to catch up. Whereas I'm always caught up because I'm constantly doing this every day.
And this is something my husband gets a little snappy at me for very often, because there's all these things that pile up and stress me out. And he's like, if you just took care of them when they came up or in a controlled way every day, you wouldn't get stressed out. You wouldn't have 500 emails to respond to at the end of the week. You would have just done them in 10 minutes every day, and it wouldn't take a whole day.
Right.
I create these problems for myself.
Yep.
That ends today, honey. This ends today.
Any of you who are listening, if you want to commit to creating a business approach as well today, you and Cami, you can, hold each other accountable.
We're on this journey together. I just let all these things that happen every day take so much space in my brain as big to-do list items when they should really just be like a part of my business flow every day.
Business flow. Yeah, so it's interesting that you say that too, because there will be days where I'll like knock out my daily list in like 30 minutes. Because there are just times when there's not as much to do.
Especially when you keep up with it every day.
Yes. And then one of two things happens. Either I completely finish my to-do list within my 8-hour day, or like there's nothing on my to-do list and I'm done.
Wow.
And I get to actually enjoy going home early, which is it's something that a lot of like people who work normal 9-to-5 jobs get to do sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, I hear my brother something's like, oh, we got to go early today because yada, 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 XYZ. And I'm like, I never get to go home early. Well, actually I do, because I'm organizing myself to the point where I am tackling all of the things that I need to tackle.
This is really brilliant. And then you're always staying on top of things. Like before COVID, I hadn't redone any copy on my website for like 3 years and didn't notice. Like I was like, oh my God, has it really been 3 years? And there was so much I wanted to change.
Yes.
And so many things I would have like answered differently in my FAQ. So I love that that's a part. I think that's a part of your quarterly.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
To just check everything. I just think that's really smart. And that is something I'm going to implement just so I know what's going on at all times. Go through the contracts, go through your website, just quarterly, check stuff out. We're changing how we would do things all the time. So like, just, wow.
Yeah, so people, if you want to create this type of thing for yourself, see when the next opportunity you have to set aside like a few days or maybe a week to implement it. And then I guarantee you that immediately after that, your life will feel so much more organized and will flow so much better.
Literally. Okay. We're living in a real world example of this because I have accountants, which we'll talk about in delegating. I avoided the shit I had to do for them for taxes for 2 months. They sent this to me beginning of January, and it didn't even take that long to just do because they do 90% of the work for me. That's why I pay them.
Exactly.
There were just a few things I had to do, and every week I put it off. I put it off. Every week it got bigger and bigger and bigger in my brain, and it just kept getting moved from one week's to-do list to the next, to the next, to the next, and my anxiety would increase along with every time that got moved to the next list. And then I got it all turned in on Monday. And you know what?
Amazing.
I felt so much lighter.
Yeah.
Like I was like, oh my God, that's not on my list anymore this week. I don't have to think of this. Is just really important.
Totally.
Do what Gabe does, not what I do.
So anyway, that is pretty much all I have to say about the organization aspect of it.
Great.
Organize your life.
Great.
And it'll give you more breaks and it'll give you more time to actually do things that are outside of your normal, regular things.
But it's like the inclination is that it would take away from the other things you have to do. So that's why I don't do it, because the other things feel more important, but it doesn't. It just makes me a more stressed and anxious person.
And it spreads it out. It spreads it all out so that you're only doing a little bit of it every single day.
This concept blew my mind. So we're going to implement that. Put a few stars by that. Okay, so the next part, delegation.
Yes, delegation. So I'm going to first start out by saying that, I mean, I'm sure a lot of you have probably heard this term, but I mean, delegation is something that's really hard for people, especially for artists, because, you know, our art is our baby. Like our edits are our baby. Our galleries are our baby.
Also, business owners in general struggle with this.
Totally, because you're like, oh, I can do it. If I can do it better than them, why would I?
Yeah.
I want it to be perfect, right?
Yeah.
But it's impossible to be a perfectionist if you want to sustain a growing business, or if you just want your business to grow in general. It's literally impossible. So first, you have to be able to get that outside of your head. A term that I'm sure some of you have heard before is that if someone can do something 75% as good as you, then you should delegate it out to them. Which
I hadn't heard that till you said that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Maybe I made it up.
Maybe.
Yeah. Quote Gabe. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, quote him
it's
on
that.
It's
not mine. I definitely heard that somewhere.
Let's quote you on that. I like that.
Yeah. Rewrite the history book.
I love that. 70% or 75% as good as you. You should be outsourcing or delegating that. That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, because the reality is, do you want to be working an 80-hour week? No, you do not. Well, if you do, you're an absolute insane person.
Yeah.
And, you know, props to you, whatever. But I don't. I want to be working 50 hours tops, and sometimes that's even like way too much for me. Like 40 hours would be nice. Sometimes 30 would be nice. Sometimes none would be nice.
Yeah.
Like that's the reality. We want to be able to work less, right? So if someone can do it just 75% as good as you need to delegate it out. And what that does is it either frees up your time to, you know, actually have a life, or it gives you more time to invest in different business opportunities that will grow your revenue in different ways.
Yeah.
If I didn't, so I have an assistant that works at this point about 30 hours a week for me. If I did not have her, that would be an extra 30 hours that I'm working every week, or it would be an extra 30 hours that is taking away from me exploring new options, expanding my business and my entrepreneurial life. I wouldn't have been able to open my studio. I wouldn't have been able to probably work on selling presets or starting this podcast. There's so much that I wouldn't be able to do if I did not have someone doing literally 30 hours of work a week for me.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And that obviously looks different. That work looks different for every different type of person, but that's the reality. And then the other thing is, I feel like I'm very guilty of this, especially in the beginning, is like, I was like, oh, well, I can do that pretty well, so I should just do it myself. My example is website. When I was in high school, I was a little bit interested in code, so I learned it a little bit. Did I actually know it that well? No. Was I an expert on it? No. But because since I thought in my head, oh, I kind of know what I'm doing, so I'm just going to make my website for myself. I made it all for myself, and it was fine. It looked fine, but it also took me an extremely long time to figure out
to just be average,
because I'm not an expert. Yeah,
Probably.
to just be average. Yeah, it took me way too long to be average.
Not saying your website wasn't exceptional. I'm just saying
it wasn't at that time.
If we're not an expert in that, like taking the time to do something you're just average at is a waste of your time and won't further your business.
Literally, accounting is a perfect example. Are we experts at taxes and at numbers?
No.
Why should we be trying to do as much of our taxes as possible? It's just taking away something that is taking us 5 times as long as it would for us to pay someone else to do it.
And to do it better.
Yeah, and to do it way better.
Yeah.
And the term, I know that for a lot of small business owners, especially people who, you know, you're your only employee, it's hard to hear, oh, spend money to make money. Like, that's a hard thing for people to really come to terms with. But the reality is, you're spending this money so that you have more time to make more money. And if you are able to get that into your head and actually treat it that way, then you will make more money, because you are going to be spending your time doing things that will expand your business in a different way.
Yeah, and I actually, I'm not a total train wreck in my business. I have something to contribute here. I didn't have the organization down, but what I do have down is delegation. And I am a little embarrassed how long it took me to get here mentally. And it's made me a little bit salty to like newer photographers who start outsourcing stuff earlier, because I'm like, you haven't worked hard enough for long enough. Like, part of me gets kind of mad about that. And I'm like, Cami, just because they figured out they should be outsourcing stuff in 2 years and it took you 6, that doesn't mean they should work to the point of getting sick all the time for 6 years, you know? So it took me way too long to realize this, but I hit a breaking point in 2018 where my business was just growing faster than I could keep up with. And I got to a point with like my editing in particular where I was so scared to outsource my editing. I believed that I'm the only one who can do it, and it has to be me. But I hated my life.
Yep.
I was growing so resentful of this business and my clients and everything, and
Yep.
I finally got to a place where I was like, even if they do 5% less of a good job than I would, or the right job, or whatever it is, clients will not notice, and like my life will get so much better
Yes.
that it's worth taking that small quality hit, because I
Yes.
can it's quicker for me to just fix that 5% difference than it was for me to edit the whole gallery from start to finish. And my hourly rate just went way up because now I'm spending 10 hours per wedding, not like 40 or 50 or whatever it was before.
Brilliant.
So hourly rate went up, the slight quality difference, and it's not even a quality difference, they're just preferences. Like,
Yeah.
they do a fantastic job. It's
Right.
just like my own preferences. It's shorter for me to just fix that and fix those little things than it would have taken for me to do it from start to finish. And my accounting and bookkeeping is another piece to this.
Yes.
I hit a point where I could not keep up with everything, and the anxiety of wondering if I was doing things correctly was just too much. I found amazing small business accountants that another photographer connected me to, and I pay the highest package with them to do everything they possibly can for me.
Ditto.
They fill out everything they can fill out for me. They're like, they'll send me a form and they're like, you could fill this out, or I could fill it out for you for this amount of money. I'm like, you know what I'm gonna
Yeah.
say, do it for me.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So those are two pieces. Even if some of my systems and my day-to-day tasks need improving, in 2018 I did hit my breaking point where I saw like I have to start delegating things, or this will no longer be sustainable for me. I can't keep living like this. So that was a big one for me. The outsourcing editing took me 6 years to get on board with, but like I like my life so much more, and the galleries are just as good.
Right. And something that we can do as perfectionists is we can actually add into our business approach time for follow-up with these people
Yes.
that we are delegating work to. So for example, monthly, I'll have a check-in with my assistant and see if, everything that I'm asking her to do is going well, or if she has any ideas about it, or it's just like a time that is set aside for us to like evaluate all the work she is doing and see if she could be doing better, or if, I'm putting too much pressure on her, or whatever it is, because it goes both ways.
Totally.
And so that's just something that you can really work into your business approach in general.
Yeah, like I have quarterly check-ins with my accountants where
Yeah,
we just like
literally.
we have a meeting and we go over everything. And I'm not in the flow of outsourcing my editing right now because I'm not shooting a high enough volume to warrant it. But I
Right.
would have meetings with them every few months just to check in about how things were going and changes and whatever, just like little like calibrations for each other. Camera jokes,
yeah.
photographer joke, photographer bad. So yeah, delegation is a big one that was huge for me to grow in the last few years.
Totally. So yeah, delegation, really important. That leads us into number 3, which is budget. And this is, a pretty standard conversation that I feel like everyone has hopefully had with themselves or with others. And if not, this is your time to really make sure that you are actually sitting down and budgeting for yourself and creating, money goals, budget goals for your business. Because the reality is, if you're not doing that, it's literally impossible to organize yourself or organize your time because you don't have anything that you're looking forward to.
When I didn't have a budget with my accountants, I had no idea how much I needed to be working. I was just working as much as I possibly could in hopes it all worked out. We touched about this in the pricing episode, so we might not need to expand on this.
Yeah, I don't think we need to
a
expand
whole
on it too
bunch,
much. But the reality is, like, what you should be sitting down and looking at your business and being like, okay, my goal is to make X amount of money. And when I say that, that means I want to bring home this amount of money, minus expenses, minus my taxes. This is what I want to actually have as expendable income for myself. So let's say that's $100,000. What does that mean? That your business needs to make $200,000 in order to actually bring home $100,000? I'm just speaking very realistically. So that is something that you have to figure out. So in order to make $200,000, how much work do you need to do at what price point, and what does that look like? And then obviously you write down, what all of your monthly expenses are as far as your business goes. This is a business budget, not a personal budget. This is a business budget.
Well, so I recommend having both.
Yeah, both are extremely important, but this is strictly just about your business. So what are your business expenses? What are you spending money on from your business every single month? And what does that look like? Add it all up. How much are you spending? I've said that 500 times. And then, obviously businesses grow, and like COVID again is a great example that I didn't meet my business goals last year and there was nothing I could do about that. And you have to be flexible and you have to be adaptable with your budget. But if you aren't at least setting a goal, then you're really doing something wrong.
Yeah, you gotta have a target number or at least an idea of where you're going and the amount of work you need to be doing to get there. If there's certain months where that's obviously not going to happen, what other money-making projects can you make happen in that month? And if you're delegating, you have the time to invest in those other projects. So yeah, budgets are important, you know, in your household and then in your business. They're separate.
Separate, yes.
Yeah.
Totally. So yeah, that's all I'll really say about budget. Just so if you haven't done that yet, you really need to sit down and just do that. The last thing that we'll talk about, again, we've already had a full episode on this, but work-life balance and a couple things that I just still want to touch on that kind of really more relate to my business approach. If you haven't listened to our work-life balance episode, it was episode 4. And we both have very good different perspectives on that, coming from different lifestyles. Something very specific that I do with my wife that is completely intentional based on my business approach is every Sunday we will go over my weekly schedule and just kind of set expectations as a family and like expectations on when I should be home, when I will go to work, how many hours I will work in a given day, what my days off will be, because my life is all over the place. Sometimes I have 3 weddings on a weekend. Sometimes I have none.
That's important for lives like ours because no week looks the same.
Exactly. So
our
we
partners
have to
need
do
to know
this.
what to expect from us.
Exactly. So we have to do this as small business owners. And so an example I was giving Cammie is like, let's say I have a shoot on Tuesday from 4 to 6. That means I probably won't be home till like 6:30 or 7. So if I'm trying to only work 8-ish hours a day, then I'm not going to start work until 10 o'clock because that's the reality. That's the reality of my day. And I don't want to have a split day where I'm like working from 8 to 12 and then taking a couple hours off to be with the kids and then going back. Like that doesn't make any sense. So it's just that my
funny.
day.
I would prefer that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh. It's hard for me, like we talked about, it's hard for me to switch from office mode to shooting mode.
And
so
that's right.
I would need that buffer to kind of reset.
Yeah. So some people need that. See?
Yeah.
Some people, it's just different for everyone. Yeah. Whereas I had to get into this mindset where I was like, oh, classically people, dads come home to their kids in the evening and they spend the few hours before bed with them. Sometimes that's not my reality. Sometimes I have breakfast with them in the morning and I spend the entire morning until the early afternoon or like
mid-morning.
Late morning. Sorry. Early afternoon. What does that mean?
I was like, oh my God, I wish.
Until the late morning with them. So
that's
it
great.
just looks different for me every single day. Yeah. I feel like I had something else to say. Where are we at? We have 1 whole minute.
1 whole minute.
Okay. I do have some closing thoughts. Do you have anything to say about
You
work
can close
life?
your thoughts.
Okay. So one thing that I love to tell people is that we have to remember that life is unpredictable. And that our businesses are unpredictable. Our days are unpredictable. Weeks are unpredictable. Every hour is literally unpredictable. And we can have as much of a plan as we want. I can follow this business approach to a T and it still will not go perfectly every single time. You have to be able to adapt and change with what happens. And you have to be flexible with your business approach. This is a guideline. It's something that you try your best to follow, but it's not going to be that way all the time. Chaos is inevitable in a growing business. Literally, it's impossible for you to grow without experiencing things that are new to you every single day. So I mean, like, look at Cammie, for example. She had, in 2018, her business was growing at a rate that she was not expecting. So she had to adapt. She had to change to the chaos that was coming her way. She knew that she couldn't handle editing that many weddings in a given time period.
Yep.
And she did. She did change. She did delegate things out. And because she saw it coming.
Yeah. And reluctantly.
Yeah,
but I knew I had no choice.
Right. But you have to be able to have that mindset in your brain. You cannot be a perfectionist and have a growing business. It's impossible.
It is impossible because especially when you're in a business that's serving clients.
Yes.
Like, they don't care. No,
it's true.
They just want their product back
The things
quickly.
that you notice, they are not noticing.
Yeah.
And
you can still deliver an incredible final gallery and an incredible product. But sometimes...
And deliver an incredible experience, too.
Yeah, you just got to get... which I would argue is more important.
Of course.
So, yeah.
But it doesn't... Even if you're going to notice the imperfections in the experience that you deliver, but for the most part, everyone else is looking at the big picture.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't just one little thing that happened
Photographer
with you.
pun.
Exactly.
Okay.
I'm dead.
Our timer did go off, but I
Yes.
stopped it because you were on a roll.
Yeah, well, I feel like we should. I'm good.
Okay.
I finished off
All right.
well.
See you on Clubhouse.
Yes.
I'd love to hear about your business approaches.
Ooh, yes. Tell us what you do. This is very important.
This is really
We
interesting.
all want to learn.
We all want to learn. I hope some of you can relate to the organizational mess that has been my life a little bit, but I'm going to work on that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we'll hold each other accountable.
Yeah.
All right. Peace out.
All right. Bye.